Welcome to Inside the BACB, the official podcast of the Behavior Analyst Certification Board.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Inside the BACB, the official podcast of the Behavior Analyst Certification Board. I'm Micah Hope, the Certification Resources Manager, and I'll be your host for the day. Today, we're diving into a topic that every future BCBA or BCABA likely cares about: supervised fieldwork. We thought we would do something a little different with this episode to make this more exciting. Come along as we think of fieldwork as an adventure quest you have to complete on your journey towards certification. Today's episode is a guidebook for your quest, your traveler's manual as you move from coursework to real-world practice. We'll cover important topics such as the purpose of fieldwork, unrestricted hours, choosing a supervisor, and documenting your journey. Luckily, I'm not wandering through this quest alone. I'm joined by our seasoned explorer and content expert, Rachel Ulrich, Director of Certification Services.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. Fieldwork is one of the most important quests on the journey towards certification, so I'm excited to shed some light on what trainees can expect.
Let's start at the beginning of the adventure. When trainees first hear about fieldwork, they often feel a mix of excitement and panic. Questions like, why do I have to do this? Or how am I going to get all of these hours? Come up immediately.
Totally. And those questions make sense. Fieldwork is a major part of the certification journey, and for good reason. This is where you stop just learning about behavior analysis and start practicing behavior analysis. And it's not unique to our profession. Many professions require supervised practice because it's such a valuable part of becoming competent.
So it's the moment when you stop looking at the map and actually start walking the path, beginning your quest.
Exactly. Coursework gives you concepts, coverage of the literature, and a foundation for thinking like a behavior analyst, but fieldwork gives you experience with real clients in the real environments. You learn to collaborate with teams, adapt when things don't go as planned, and use feedback to build your skills, all under the close guidance of a qualified supervisor.
And that's something no textbook or hypothetical scenario can fully prepare you for.
Right. And that's why it's called fieldwork. You and your supervisor must have a formal relationship with actual clients. That could mean working for the same organization or both having service contracts with the same client or agency. That's because your supervisor isn't just mentoring you. They're helping ensure the client receives the appropriate services. In fact, the definition of an appropriate client in the fieldwork requirements was recently updated to clarify expectations and strengthen client protections.
That's good to know. So before you can set out on your own journey as a certified behavior analyst, fieldwork is the structured adventure that teaches you how to navigate the work, use the tools you've gathered, and develop the judgment you'll need in practice.
Yep, exactly. Subject matter experts who have experience and expertise with fieldwork set the fieldwork requirements. They know what activities and what supervision you should receive throughout your fieldwork adventure, as well as what is feasible. These requirements were designed with the goal of helping you have a successful and meaningful experience.
That's important to remember. All right, so if fieldwork is the heart of the journey, let's start unpacking some of the major components trainees will encounter along the way. Let's talk about one of the biggest hot topics, unrestricted hours, because this is where everyone starts asking, does this count? Does that count? What do I do?
Yes, I get that.
So tell us, what are unrestricted activities and why do they matter so much?
So unrestricted activities are basically the types of tasks that BCBAs and BCABAs regularly perform, and you need a lot of practice with them. That's why trainees working toward BCBA certification must complete at least 60% of their fieldwork hours as unrestricted, and those working toward BCABA certification need at least 40%.
So these are the main storyline tasks for this journey, not the side quests.
Exactly. So examples could include conducting intake interviews, designing or evaluating data collection systems, writing behavior intervention plans, doing risk-benefit analyses, providing feedback to RBTs, developing discharge plans. They're the activities that are so important for developing and supporting behavior analytics services for clients. A portion of fieldwork hours can be direct service delivery, where you're implementing services directed in a plan. However, because direct service delivery will not be the main focus of your responsibilities as a BCBA or BCABA, there's a limit to how many direct service hours can count towards supervised fieldwork. Unrestricted activities give you the opportunity to practice doing what a BCBA or BCABA will typically do in their job.
So studying for the exam can't count as fieldwork?
Nope, no studying, no CPR classes, no hypothetical examples, not even listening to this podcast, although I highly recommend you keep listening to this one.
Yeah, we hope it's really helpful, but not countable toward fieldwork hours. Can you expand a bit on why these activities don't count?
Sure. Fieldwork, again, must be related to your specific clients and involve behavior analytic skills. This is to ensure you're practicing activities that will build your skills you need as a BCBA or BCAB. If an activity does not relate to your clients, involve actual behavior analytic skills, then it's not a fieldwork activity.
Got it. One more clarifying question. Who decides what counts as unrestricted hours? Do supervisors make that decision?
Great question. The hours must meet all of the BACB's fieldwork requirements. Beyond that, the supervisor will help guide the trainee on which hours meet the BACB's requirements, the client's needs, and the trainee's professional goals.
Good to know. Speaking of supervisors, let's move on and talk specifically about them, because this relationship can make or break the fieldwork experience.
Absolutely. Going along with your analogy, great adventure has a guide. And in fieldwork, that's your supervisor. You want a supervisor who actually knows the areas you need to learn about, understands the clients you're working with, and who can give you timely, meaningful feedback.
So we're not looking for someone who just hands you a compass and says, "Good luck out there."
No, competence matters, and so does communication. A good supervisor should be organized, intentional, and upfront about expectations. For that reason, a strong supervision contract is very important. It's also a really helpful tool to guiding a discussion between the trainee and the supervisor before supervision even starts to ensure there are clear expectations.
So mutual clarity, mutual respect, and ideally someone who doesn't wait 3 weeks to email you back.
Exactly.
While we're talking about supervisors, can a trainee hire a remote supervisor to help them obtain their fieldwork hours?
Potentially, but because all your supervision and fieldwork hours have to relate to actual clients, your supervisor needs an ongoing relationship and oversight capacity with those clients. That limits the situations where this is possible.
So they can't just be a BCBA who jumps on Zoom every now and then to observe a session and provide some feedback?
No, your supervisor has to already have a legitimate relationship with the clients you're working with. That's because they need consent to observe the clients remotely. They need to be involved enough to guide you in all of the behavior analytic activities you're performing with those clients. On top of that, many states require supervisors to hold a license in the same state where the services occur, even if the supervision itself happens remotely.
So remote supervision is like a narrow mountain pass. You can travel through it, but only when the conditions are just right.
Perfect summary.
Let's move on and talk about everyone's favorite topic, documentation.
It's not glamorous, but every adventurer needs a way to keep track of where they've been. They want to track everything accurately from day one. Some people use software they purchase, some people build their own spreadsheets.
Some software products claim that if you track your hours in their system, these hours will meet all of the BACB's requirements. What are your thoughts on those?
I think it is something that people should be cautious about. The BACB doesn't endorse any of these software products, so you're still responsible for meeting requirements and confirming the calculations.
So verify everything to ensure it's accurate. Think of it like keeping a detailed travel log. The log matters just as much as the steps themselves.
Exactly. And be sure to review it often with your supervisor.
Great idea. Let's move on and discuss the test content outline, or TCO. People sometimes treat it like a checklist of competencies they need to complete during fieldwork.
Yeah, that's a common misconception. The TCO lists what's on the exam. Although there are elements of it that a trainee could or should get experience applying with real clients, it was never meant to be a fieldwork curriculum.
So fieldwork should be tailored to your actual setting and your professional goals.
Right. So you and your supervisor should talk about what skills you need for the kind of work you want to do. Then they can build a competency-based plan around that.
I love that, because becoming a BCBA or BCABA isn't just about passing the exam. It's about becoming ready to practice ethically, competently, and confidently.
Exactly. The exam tests your knowledge, but fieldwork prepares you for the real-world responsibilities that come with the certification. And that's why this part of the journey, this fieldwork quest, is so essential. Fieldwork is where you lay the foundation for the practitioner you're going to become.
What about using supervision curricula that you can purchase for your fieldwork hours?
Yeah, they could be helpful for your supervisor, especially when they can be tailored to what you're experiencing with your client. They can be used to track your progress towards your professional goals, but again, be cautious. No curriculum can guarantee that completing it means your hours will count.
And definitely avoid anything that suggests doing hypothetical or simulated case activities for fieldwork hours.
Exactly. Everything, again, must connect to actual clients. To get a wider range of experience, take on another quest. That is, try to get your fieldwork experience in different locations with different supervisors to diversify your experience.
Great advice. Okay, let's zoom out to the heart of this episode. So while the path may feel long, every step is getting you closer to becoming the kind of professional you set out to be.
Exactly. It's a meaningful part of the journey. And if you really engage with the process and don't just check the boxes, you'll likely look back and realize how those experiences shaped both your competence and your identity as a behavior analyst.
Well, that's a deep dive into our adventure of supervised fieldwork, what it is, why it matters, and how to approach it with a little less stress and a lot more confidence. Huge thanks to our expert Rachel for joining us today and helping us navigate this adventure.
I'm always happy to help fellow travelers on their way to certification.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Inside the BACB.
Thank you for listening to Inside the BACB. Don't miss future episodes. Subscribe now.